If somebody admitted something to you and then they turned around and said that they didn't admit it, but you had video documentation to prove it, wouldn't that make them a liar? Well, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. can't accept the fact that Tupac Shakur fired him. Now, he's trying to say that it didn't happen. That makes him a liar, untrustworthy, and uncredible.
If a person was my custodian in my building, he can't talk about how we made a record in the studio, right?
Right.
He can't talk about how I promoted Pac's album or I came with the name All Eyes on Me. He can just tell you about how he cleaned the floors.
Right.
So if a person do security, motherfucker use security. But
Right.
you wouldn't in the, every person, like Pac was an arrogant motherfucker.
Right.
Pac didn't fuck with everybody. If you was to help, he gonna speak to you, but he not gonna have a conversation with you.
Let's get into some of this straight game.
Life is like cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy DELRAY, Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Thank you for tuning in once again. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And like I always say, if you want to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of this straight game, please do me a favor and click on what appears to be that little bell notification. I'm gonna get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. feels the need to keep calling me names, right? In his latest video, once again, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. and Gullible John tried to manipulate you, excuse me, tried to manipulate you into believing that somehow Reggie the Rat Wright Jr.'s security guards allegedly running behind the Afeni Shakur in the video that they used was evidence that Tupac Shakur did not fire him. It is a fact that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. has already admitted that Tupac sent a letter to him firing him. He's already admitted that. But somehow, some way, I don't think that he remembered that video. And now he's been trying to walk that back. He's been trying to get that taken down off of my YouTube channel. Fraudulently. Yeah. That's the only way he's going to be able to do it, is through fraud. And like I said, every time he's done it, I've exposed him. And I will continue to expose him. Every time. Trust me. And so, when you understand that there is evidence, there's documentation, and then there's conversation that comes after that documentation, trying to prove that the documentation doesn't exist. That's like the Houdini effect, if you will. Somebody trying to convince you that your nose ain't on your face, that your eyes cannot see, that your lips and tongue and taste buds do not taste, right? When you understand that, you're going to understand this. The fact of the matter is, Tupac fired Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. That is a documented fact. The fact is, Suge Knight said that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. pulled the security off of Tupac that night. Suge said it out of his mouth. Right? We didn't ask Suge to say that. We didn't try to coerce Suge to say that. He was saying that in a prison conversation. Right? He copped to that. So the pulling the security off of Tupac was blatant, outright negligence, if you will. Negligence along with, just outright blatant disregard for Tupac's safety. if you will, right? And so then Suge Knight goes in to say that he asked Reggie to send 5 security guards. Well, we didn't ask Suge Knight to come out and say that. This is something that he said in a casual conversation over a prison conversation over the phone that we were not supposed to hear. You understand what I'm saying? It wasn't like what he's doing now on the podcast, you know. We weren't supposed to hear the conversation that Suge had that I had played. We weren't supposed to hear that. That was a regular phone conversation, right? Okay. So now, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. wants us to believe that Suge Knight is lying now. Suge Knight, he's lying. He gotta call me. He gotta call me collect. When he called me collect, he gotta call me. Right. Just like Yasmin Fuller was supposed to come on Bomb first. That conversation never took place. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. lied. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. told us a few years ago that Suge Knight was supposed to be coming on Bomb first. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. lied. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. just recently did a video in where he says that Suge better watch what he say. And he was warning Dave Mays. Amazing. What could Suge Knight possibly say? You know what Suge Knight could possibly say? The truth. It's just that simple. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. has been allowed to lie and create stories. Listen to this.
If a person was my custodian in my building, he can't talk about how we made a record in the studio, right?
Right.
He can't talk about how I promoted Pac's album or I came with the name All Eyes on Me. He can just tell you about how he cleaned the floors.
Right.
So if a person do security, motherfucker use security. But
Right.
you wouldn't in the, every person, like Pac was an arrogant motherfucker.
Right.
Pac didn't fuck with everybody. If you was to help, he gonna speak to you, but he not gonna have a conversation with you.
You heard Suge Knight just say, if a guy was security, he was security. He didn't know it. It's just that simple. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was a liaison. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. according to Suge Knight, not according to anything that I'm saying. You gotta understand. See, because I think people they get confused. No, I'm not saying nothing. I'm gonna show you the paperwork. Here's a copy of the affidavit, a snippet of the affidavit. When Suge Knight was asked who was left to run Death Row when he was locked up. It was Michelle A. And Suge Knight was under oath. You can tell me whatever else you want to tell me. Oh, it was this. Oh, it was that. You know, once again, this is the guy who ran Death Row saying who he left in charge. Not who I think he left in charge. Not who appeared to be who left the person that was left in charge. But this is Suge Knight saying in an affidavit who he left in charge. Right? So, once again, through documentation and demonstration, I am showing you the facts. Not what I'm saying, not what I'm alluding to, not that what I'm trying to convince you of. You can either take it or you can leave it. I'm okay with that. Right? Like I said before, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. has been trying to say he was not fired. He's already admitted to that. He's already admitted to that. He just tried to change the dates and when the letter came. So he didn't want you to know it was so close to when after he was fired, Tupac had got shot. Excuse me. And so with that being said, you got to understand all of this trying to convince the world, you know, through this video that they put up with, you know, 2 security guards running behind a Feeney at the hospital. His alleged security guards, I don't know. You know, like I said, I don't know. Once again, the fact of the matter is, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was hired by Death Row. His security was supposed to be at the hospital, I would hope, you know, after a certain amount of time. But like I said, for the foreseeable, from what Frank Alexander said, from what Michael Moore said, from what Suge Knight said, from what Gobi has said, from what other people have said, right? And another thing, I did the interview with Tupac's father. Tupac's father did not say security. He said 2 Suge Knight guys would come up every time he came out of the room. 2 Suge Knight guys would come up to him and ask him, you know, did he wake up? Did he say anything? Right? That's what he said. He didn't say security. He didn't say none of that. You know what I mean? Now he's trying to Mr. Garland is a deadbeat and all of these other little derogatory terms. Mr. Garland ain't never said nothing about Reggie Wright until Reggie Wright said something about him. He ain't said nothing about that man. That man's 70-something years old, man. This guy has no chill at all. None. But there's a video, and I want to show you this. The reason why I want to show you this is because this is very important about a person's character and who they are. This video on Vlad, at the end of the video, just look, watch the video. Watch it. Watch it. Watch it. Yeah. And listen to his last words that he said before the video go off. That spoke volumes to me because I never had seen the video. I just seen it recently. It spoke volumes to me. Wow. You know? And so it says to me what this guy, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr., is willing to do for money. You know? It speaks volume. I was like, whoa. It took me back. I was like, man, you know. But once again, you know, Gullible John, with the assistance of Gullible John, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. has been calling me names, and I didn't even know who they were. I knew who Tupac was. I never knew who Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was. I've never associated myself with him. I've probably been in the same rooms as he was, back in the day, and didn't really know who he was, didn't really care to know who he was, to be perfectly honest with you, from that perspective. And that's a possibility. That's not an absolute certain, right? And with that being said, Reggie has been calling me names. He tried to call me gay. He tried to call me the groupie. He tried to call me choir boy. He called me a bunch of names, right? It doesn't bother me, man. You know what I mean? I'm a man first, you know? And I know what I represent on a daily basis, right? Yeah. But guess what? It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It hasn't worked, and it's not going to work. When I start calling him Reggie the Rat Wright Jr., based on facts, based on the fact that he went on a podcast and admitted to being an informant, and the only time that he can be an informant or be considered an informant is when he talked to the FBI agents. He didn't even remember talking to some of the FBI agents. The guy Phil Carson, like I say, he didn't remember talking to him. That's why I call him Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. Because he called himself Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. Get it? You see, I'm very thoroughly researched. Everything that I say, I can back it up with facts, with proof, with evidence. Not conjecture, not innuendo, not speculation, not hearsay, but hardcore factual evidence. Right? So that's what I've been doing since I've been on YouTube. That's why people come over to my channel, and I appreciate you guys for coming over here. I'm not trying to convince you of nothing. At the end of the day, the evidence speaks for itself. And so, like I told you before, you don't need to try to convince anybody of anything that you know is the truth. But Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. can't accept the responsibility and the fact that he failed Tupac. He failed Suge. He didn't do his job. He was mad. He pulled the security off of Tupac. And then tried to blame it on Frank Alexander when Frank was the person that pulled Tupac off of Orlando at the fight at the MGM. You can see that's on video. But all of a sudden now he wants to tell us that he had to take the responsibility for Frank. Do y'all see anything wrong with that? Why was Frank the only one there? See, this is the part that you know he can't answer. Why was Frank the only one on Tupac that night? Not all of these other if I woulda, coulda, shoulda sent somebody. You know, that's Monday morning quarterback, and we talking about what actually was. We're talking about the facts. There's video of Frank running behind Tupac at the MGM Grand. We see it. Look at it very closely. Right? But once again, here comes the deflection. Gullible John says, you know, and I think this is wrong. What? You supposed to be the interviewer. You ain't even supposed to have no opinion. You supposed to be totally unbiased. So at the end of the day, we know the credibility of what y'all kicking over there on Bums First is not anything of value, of credibility, or of substance. We know that. Right? But see, I'm not going to diss anybody that subscribes to your channel because I think everybody deserves to look at and watch and see what they want to see. It's their choice. Right? But I've brung you documentation. I brung you confirmation of information. Right? And that's all I continue to bring. Your boy DELRAY, straight gang.